So welcome everyone. I'm really excited for tonight's webinar slash workshop and Q&A with a very special, I should say, friend and financial expert that I have had the opportunity to connect with and build a relationship with that has led to borrowing some of his time so that he can share his knowledge and his experience with all of us. And so I am going to give a brief introduction just so that you know the value of the person that it's right in front of you and why you should stick until the end for today's presentation. And I want to share something personal that I think is going to set the stage for why I surround myself with really good, valuable people. And I consider Derick to be one of those. So Derick Van Ness is a tax and wealth strategist for dentists, doctors, and other small business owners who are great at what they do. Don't we all relate to that? But are not well versed in the intricacies of taxes and building wealth. Okay, he has an uncanny ability to complex topics easy to grasp, and his clients constantly appreciate his ability to understand the unique needs of being an entrepreneur. So this is, again, who we are in a nutshell. All of us are small business owners starting our first, venture, and we are great at what we do. You as a clinician, I am great at helping my clients and provide the guidance that they need, but we still are running businesses, right? You are going to run a business and you're doing this because you want to build wealth for your family and leave a legacy. And so this is one of the reasons why I am so excited. Derick is passionate about helping people get the money game figured out so that they can begin living their biggest life as soon as possible. He deeply believes each person has something unique and valuable to contribute to the world, and his mission is to eradicate money as a barrier to his clients creating a life they adore. Okay, his team at Big Life Financial uses little known tax and financial strategies to help clients drastically and legally reduce their taxes and build money systems to ensure they build wealth quickly and safely. The combination of the two can create exponential results and the confidence that goes along with having a true plan and knowing how to execute it. Okay, so in his free time, he loves racing sailboats, creating art, West Coast swing dancing, and traveling with his wife Jackie. And he currently lives in between Saratoga Springs, Utah, and San Diego, California, after spending 20 years living across the US, including Washington, D.C., Brooklyn, Texas, and Los Angeles. So welcome, Derick. And before, again, I said I was going to share something personal. I reached out to Derick a few weeks ago, or we had a conversation about an issue that I was experiencing in my business and as an individual, as an entrepreneur, just like everyone else typically does when we're starting our careers or our businesses. And he pulled out his wallet, and I told him after the call, send me a picture of this. And he read a quote that I want to share with all of you because I see him more than just an expert, but now I respect him and care for him as an individual because he gave me such great advice as a human being, as a mentor. So I appreciate that, and I wanted to let you know in front of everyone, but I want to share that quote because it sort of takes precedence into what we're stepping into as first-time business owners and what you're going to share with us about those tax strategies and techniques that we should become aware of. But he shared this quote from Lao Tzu that goes, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." And so we are going to let go of a lot of mindset and programming that we have had about our idea and relationship between, finances or taxes or strategies, and really become what we might be by implementing a lot of the things that we're going to be learning from Derick tonight. So welcome, Derick, and thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to share your knowledge with us.
Well, thank you, Maritza. That's a very kind introduction, and I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and share different things with you. Certainly, we can focus on one or two really specific strategies, but I think it's probably wise to just start with some big picture stuff and look at, like, as you're taking on this business venture, like you said, to become what you can be, you have to let go of what you've been in the past, right? We have to grow and evolve. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a parent yet, but growing a business, very much like being a parent, forces you out of your comfort zone. You have to learn new things, you have to tackle new things. And, as people who've studied dentistry, I'm sure you're used to that. But everybody I talk to who's a dentist, and I have hundreds of clients that are, they all tell me, we didn't get any business training. We didn't get tax training. We didn't get financial training. You learned how to be a great dentist, which is awesome. But unless you got an MBA, I did have a friend who got an MBA simultaneously as he was getting his dentistry degree. But if you didn't do that, you probably didn't learn a lot of this stuff. So, tonight we're going to take just a tiny little piece of the pie. We're going to talk about some really common things. Specifically, we're going to spend some time on the research and development credit because it's something that we found applies to nearly every dentist we work with. You guys know that dentistry is growing and changing, evolving very rapidly right now. And so this is a great chance for us to take advantage of that part of it and get some credits for it, right? And I'll throw a couple of things out here, having worked with so many dentists, and feel free to chime in if you have anything here, Maritza. But dentistry is one of those professions that has the ability to make a lot of money, right? Most of my clients earn $500,000 or more per year. And it's because dentistry is, obviously a very highly skilled, very important industry. But with that comes a lot of responsibility. What do you do with that money? It's very easy to get wasteful. It's very easy to not pay attention to it. And the biggest thing we see is people don't realize how expensive taxes can be. I mean, if you're making $500,000 a year, every new dollar you make, depending on where you live, if you're in New York, like Maritza, you're probably at 47, 48, 49% of every dollar is now going to the government in the form of just income taxes, right? If you're in a state like Texas or Florida, maybe it's a little lower than that because you don't have state taxes. But the reality is, taxes are the biggest expense in your whole life. Even if you got kids in college, taxes are more than that. That's how expensive they are every single year. And as a dentist, you're going to feel the brunt of that if you haven't already, right? So if you're a newer dentist, the first 2 years aren't so bad. You've got a bunch of write-offs. You aren't making quite as much money yet because your clinic's still filling out. You're still getting things going. You've got enough offset. Usually by the third or fourth year, you start to really feel it. And once you start to really hit $1 million plus in production, you're probably making 400,000 plus. And if you don't know, the big jump in the tax code is about 395,000. It's just a couple bucks less than that, is where you go from 24% tax bracket to the 32% tax bracket. So, and it changes a little every year, but just so you know, about 400,000, taxes get real expensive, and every dollar you make over that gets worse and worse. So I would say, if you're not aware of that, this is something to pay attention to. We could cover a lot of different things. I have presentations. I have a 3-hour presentation where I go through all kinds of tax strategies. We're not going to do that. I do also have a giveaway, and I'm going to tell you how to get a copy of this at the end of the training today, and how to get some extra help with this stuff. But there are a lot of things you can do. If you just get even halfway good at taxes, it'll save you a lot of money. And if you get really advanced, I believe we can keep almost everybody from a 40 to 45% tax bracket. I think we can keep you closer to a 25% tax bracket. That's a lot of extra money for you. So tonight we're going to focus on one of my favorite strategies, one that we've done for years and years and years with dentists. And it's really important. And, it's a kind of little known because research and development credits, which we're going to talk about, they're kind of their own little thing. Most CPAs don't do them. There are some specialty firms, and I'll tell you a little bit about why that's the case. But the one thing I will tell you is, if you haven't heard about this, don't be surprised by that, because honestly, most CPAs, unless they're dental specific, they don't see this kind of stuff that often. And it doesn't apply to a lot of other businesses because they don't have the technology changes and the advancements that you guys have had. The other thing is, like, just CPAs in general, people think that they're supposed to be like out there looking for tax strategies for you. I got news for you. Like CPAs don't have time to go and look for tax strategies for you. And for most of you, your dental CPA or your CPA, like you're a 1% client for them. Most of their clients make 50, 75, $100,000 a year. They have a W-2 job and a 401k, and that's it. They don't have write-offs. They don't have all these different sections of the tax code. They don't have tax advantaged investments, donation strategies. They don't have entity structuring things they can do. They don't have any of that. So you're very specific in a very small portion for most of your CPAs. You're their top of the mountain client. And honestly, they're really trying to serve the masses. They're not trying to necessarily go out and spend a ton of time looking for something that applies to 2 of their clients or 5 of their clients. They're looking at what applies to hundreds of my clients, and you're just not in that category. So I bring this up because a lot of people expect their CPA to go find these things, and that's just not what CPAs do, honestly. They record things well. They help you to organize things well. They make sure everything's compliant. That's exactly what they're trained to do. But there's only a very small segment of them who go out and actually look for tax strategies. And if if you're really looking for people who are proactive, I'd be happy if you end up talking with us at the end. We can point you in the direction of some CPAs that we think do a really good job, because almost everybody I talk to is looking for that. So we can help with that. But just know that if you think it's up to your CPA to find you tax strategies, you're going to be disappointed. Most people tell me when they ask their CPA, hey, how do I pay less taxes? They say, hey, you just make a lot of money, just get used to it. It's just part of the deal. It's a first world problem. The reality is there are strategies out there. It's just a little bit outside of their scope, because you have to create a lot of these, and it's not that hard if you know how. But hopefully it's good for you to know these things do exist out there. It's just you have to know where to look, and it's not within the realm of what a typical CPA or tax pro would do, just because you are such a rarity. I know you surround yourself with lots of dentists, so it doesn't seem like a rarity to you. But if you look around in the general world, there's not that many of you, relative to the rest of society. So with that, Maritza, I think I just want to jump right into research and development credits. And I can do it one of 2 ways. We can either do slides, or I can just go through this quickly with you guys. But let me just tell you a little about the research and development credits. Maybe we'll skip the slides for today, because I know those can be kind of boring. I'll use my hands a lot. We'll make it exciting, right? Even though taxes don't seem that exciting until you start saving the money and you're like, wow, taxes are worth $100,000 a year. This has got way cooler, right? So a little about me as I got into this. Like, I started out helping people to do something called, we call it the money maximization model. It's something called infinite banking. And we were working with business owners, and almost every single person I talked to said, how do I save money on taxes, right? And so I started looking and asking and digging on how could I help my clients save more money on taxes. And we found the research and development credit. So let me tell you about these credits. You may have heard about the employee retention credits and some of the different things with PPP and COVID. This is none of that. This is something that's been around since the 80s. It was actually created for the automotive industry back in the 80s. Up to that point, the United States had been the dominant car manufacturer in the country, especially like the Rust Belt, right? Like Detroit and the whole Midwest was making all these cars. And at the end of the day, the Japanese cars and some of the foreign cars came over and started taking over the industry, and Congress wanted to help. So they came up with the research and development credits, and that's where this came from. They wanted American business owners and automakers to be able to innovate and try stuff. But they realized when you try new stuff, sometimes it doesn't work and it's very expensive. So they wanted to incentivize these businesses to reinvest in new ideas, new technology, better ways to do things, so they could compete with the other countries in the world in automotive, right? In creating cars. So anyway, fast forward, that happened in 1981. There's been a couple changes over the years. At first, these were for huge companies that were spending, millions and billions of dollars on research. And Congress realized this was super, super powerful. So they actually dumbed it down. They made a simplified version of the credit. They changed the rules and said the technology that you're bringing into your business, it doesn't have to be new to the world. It just has to be new to you, right? And so all of a sudden, and then actually it became a permanent part of the tax code, not just some sort of temporary thing in 2015 with the PATH Act. So this is something that's evolved over the years, and pretty much since 2015, once it became a permanent part of the tax code, it's really been accessible to small business owners because now you're able to go to someone who's an expert because it was permanent. Like some of these tax pros went off and just became specialists in this particular thing, sort of like you have someone who just specializes in endo or other kinds of things that are specialty. That's kind of what these R&D tax credit folks do. And so the credits got a lot more affordable. When people get really good at stuff, the cost comes down, they master it, and now it's accessible. So what really happens with the research and development credits is this. If you're spending money in your practice or in your business that meets 4 criteria, then you're going to be able to claim those expenses, those dollars that you're spending on those things, and you'll get a credit back for them. So let me just go over those real quick. I won't go crazy. I won't go crazy into details, but basically, if you're spending money to improve a product or process, in most cases, dentistry is process driven, right? You're a service business. So if you're looking to improve that process with some kind of new upgrade, change, whatever, then that's going to check that box. The second box you're trying to check is the IRS language says, are you looking to reduce technological uncertainty? What that really means is when you do a particular procedure or when you do a particular thing, you get a predictable outcome. In other words, we're trying to reduce the amount of variable or improve the success rate of whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? And I would argue those first 2 things, improving a product or process and getting more predictable outcomes, most businesses are trying to do that. I know my business does, and we don't qualify for research and development credits. But the third thing that kind of kicks me out is it needs to be based in hard science. And so the IRS defines hard science as biology, computer science, physical science, or engineering. Okay. You guys do a ton of stuff with biology. Obviously, you're dealing with the human body, and also a lot of stuff with computer science, right? With all the digital scanning and even the AI stuff that's happening now, 3D printing, so many different things. You're using a lot of that. And then the fourth one is there needs to be a process of experimentation. So if you buy a widget and then turn around and resell a widget, like if you guys buy electric toothbrushes and then sell them, like that's not going to get you R&D credits, right? But if you're doing other things, if you're bringing in new equipment, new diagnostic equipment that's going to allow you to get better accuracy and faster turnarounds on the devices that you're creating, and the fit's better, wound healing's better, less bleeding, whatever, reduced pain for patients, all of these other things that are faster, more efficient. When you do stuff like that, that's the kind of thing that creates credits. And a lot of what the credits are going to be attributed by is you paying yourself or your staff, because you don't have a ton of like product cost. You're not like a manufacturer who's creating a new kind of aluminum or something, and a lot of your cost is in the materials. I know you have some material costs, but the big thing that you have is a lot of wages, right? A lot of labor. And so as you and your team are figuring out, hey, should we bring 3D printing? Should we mill our own crowns? Should we use this new AI technology to do a second diagnosis so that patients are more confident? Should we use better diagnostic equipment so that we can more accurately diagnose what's going on with the CBCT or whatever? As you do those kinds of things, it may or may not work for you. I've definitely talked to dentists who 3D printing didn't work for them, or they didn't like a particular type of scanner and had to resell it, or just didn't use it, or they brought in Invisalign and didn't like it very much, so they went over and used, SureSmile or something like that. We just don't know until you bring it into your practice. And the government doesn't want you to stop trying these new things, so they give you credits, right? When things go wrong, the credits are supposed to help cushion that blow a little bit. And so that's what they're really trying to encourage. That's the spirit of the credits, is We want you to innovate. We want you to try new stuff. And when it doesn't work out, hey, you've got a little extra money from these credits, right? So how the credits work is, of course, it's activity driven if you're doing these kinds of things. And here's the good news. Like, you don't have to figure out the activities. We'll walk you through it. But essentially, if you're doing these activities, the associated costs are called qualified research expenses. So those are the wages and any materials you have, maybe some contractors if you have them involved, like a third party lab, or if you have some sort of 1099 that's a specialist or whatever that you bring in to help figure this stuff out. But at the end of the day, all those costs come together and they are qualified research expenses. And a certain portion of that ends up being given back to you as a credit. So let me just give you some real numbers so that you can kind of translate this in your own brain. So let's say you have $500,000 of payroll, right, in your practice. And we determined that 40% of that is qualified research expenses. In other words, 40% of the dollars you're spending to your team and yourself, and a lot of it is going to be you as the dentist, to figure this stuff out, to test it, to upgrade it, to tweak it, to make it better so that you're getting better outcomes for your business, your patients, or whoever. That 40% of 500,000 is $200,000. So that's $200,000 that qualify. And then we found the multiplier somewhere in the 5 to 8% range. So it's like $10,000 to $16,000 if those were your numbers per year. Now, here's what's really cool. I don't know if you know this about taxes, but you can actually amend back up to 3 years and get a refund. So if you've been doing these things over the last couple of years and not filing for R&D, we can actually right now go back to 2020 because people filed 2020 in 21, right? You could do 2020, 2021, 2022, and then relatively soon here, people will be filing their 2023s as well. So we could actually, in a very short period of time, do up to 4 years. So if you were getting 10 to 15 grand per year, that's $40,000 to $60,000 you could be getting back from the IRS, right? Now, I won't promise you that they're fast. That's nothing I would never say, anything I would ever say about the IRS, but they are consistent. They do get these things processed, and they will send you an actual physical check that you will get and can cash for these as a refund. So if you've ever gotten a refund with an amendment or something on your taxes, it's just like that, right? So we do see, and this is, don't quote me on this, but just industry wide, we've done enough in dentistry to know that it seems like if you've got, I would say the typical practice out there that we talk to does between $1 million and $1.5 million in production. And I would say those folks are getting between $10,000 and $20,000 a year, right? If you do a little more technology and a little bit more innovation, you're going to be on the high end of that. If you didn't do very much, you might be a little on the lower end of that. And obviously, if you have a mega practice, I mean, I've got a couple of clients that do $7 million, $8 million, $9 million in their practice, and they're obviously getting 6 figures a year back on these kinds of things. So it really is the matter of what you're doing with your business and the size. But realistically, the process for you probably only takes an hour or two in total. To see if you qualify for R&D credits, I mean, it really is, my particular firm, and we've worked with a lot of other groups that do this and talk to them. Usually it's an interview where we go through and we talk about what did you do in your practice? Why'd you do it? What were you looking to improve? Kind of checking those 4 boxes I talked about. And we just go through the different things you've done each year. It probably takes 40, maybe 45 minutes to go through most of that. If you've done a lot, it could be just a little longer, but less than an hour in most cases to answer those questions. We take that, we match it up with your payroll and your tax returns, and our CPA will give you an estimate, a free estimate of what you can see for research and development credits. It's usually within about 10%, so it's pretty close. And then at that point, if you decide you want to move forward, you just give us the go ahead. Our team will produce the credit study for you, and either our team can help you do the amendment, or your existing tax pro can just do the amendment and integrate that right into your tax returns. So when we go back, obviously it's an amendment. And then like for your 2023 and moving forward, then you can just do this every year as part of your taxes and just keep that $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, whatever it turns out to be, every single year. And it's, where I come from, 2 hours of work for $20,000 or $15,000, a pretty good hourly rate, right? Plus, I think that most of us just love to not have to pay as much in taxes because they are pretty expensive. So, if you've been bringing new things, new equipment, new technology, new software, testing different materials, trying different techniques, bringing new stuff, sleep apnea or Botox or different kinds of procedures into your sleep dentistry, all of that kind of stuff into your practice, or upgrading how you do things, then chances are really good that you're acquiring these credits, right? And the good news is, like I said, you can find out for free. So this is just one simple strategy that can help you to keep a lot more of the money that you make. You guys are in an occupation where you make plenty of money. The question is, how do we keep it? And then how do we be smarter with it? And that's a big part of what we solve. So like I said, this is just one little piece of that pie of how do you keep more of the money you make? Well, research and development credits, like I said, for an hour or two of work, it really does keep a bunch of money in your pocket. I mean, where I come from, an extra 15 grand a year will really help to pay for some kids' college, right? As long as they're not going to be dentists. If they are, they might need a little more than that. But but it'll pay for a lot of good things and help. When you start stacking this up with the other tax strategies that are out there, even on a very basic level, even if you're a new dentist, honestly, the first, I don't know, 15 to $30,000 is really easy to offset in your taxes, right? There's quite a few different things that almost everybody does that if you structurally just know how to do them, you can add them to your bottom line and just keep that money. And then once people get above that $400,000 mark, there's a whole new set of strategies that start to appear and make a lot of sense that can help you to dramatically cut your taxes down, sometimes cut them in half, which is pretty darn powerful. So you just start stacking this stuff up with credits, with write-offs, with investments that have tax breaks or different kinds of donations, like I talked about. You can really put a huge dent in that. And this is just one of those credits that we've seen for dentists is almost a no-brainer. There's just so much technology and change happening in the industry that it's very easy. And to make this super easy for you guys, I have done a quick, I did a QR code so that you can just sign up and get a free conversation. Let me just go down here. I had a whole slideshow, like I said, for you guys. If you just go to biglifefinancial.com, I actually changed this for Maritza, but for some reason it didn't show up on my slides. If you just go to biglifefinancial.com/mdent, you can just sign up for free. We'll give you a complimentary assessment. You'll talk with myself or someone on my team, and we'll just take you through this, and you can kind of see what you qualify for. So no cost, no anything. If you have other tax questions, we're happy to get into that. We do, like I said, have CPAs and so forth that we help with as well. So biglifefinancial.com/mdent will get you there. And we'll make sure that you're well taken care of because of Maritza. I mean, we do our best to take care of everybody, but just definitely wanted you to know. See, I had all these fancy slides for you guys.
Well,
I just decided to skip them.
Helpful and powerful, I have to say. I've learned a lot. And so one of the things, and guys, as you're listening in, if you have any questions, post them in the chat and we'll ask him as he's, talking. I want to make this as interactive as possible since he's, again, being so generous with us and we have him for, 45 minutes to an hour. I definitely encourage you to hop on a call with him. But one of the things, just for those doctors who are looking for like an immediate understanding and implementation, like let's say what are some of the things that like equipment wise, as you mentioned before. So if I'm understanding correctly, if I have a CBTC scanner and I want to be able to and I purchase a new piece of equipment, I am testing it out and whether or not, as long as it meets one of those four criterias, I'm going to be able to, is it journal the process or how does that work typically? Because I think that for
Yeah.
us, it's just like we take for granted that we are using this equipment, these materials to serve the patient, not to serve
Mhm.
ourselves financially through tax credits. And I think we have to go through like the little bit of the mindset shift and learn and maybe revisit, because we had some people that showed up a little bit later on about like how this credit came about and what it means so that we can shift our thinking about, okay, this is a piece of equipment that it's facilitating for me to do certain things for my patients, but
Mhm.
here's how the government and how financially I can benefit from this, from implementing these things in my practice.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there, Maritza, is the understanding that it's not the cost of equipment. First off, you do get to depreciate that, but that's a whole different kind of tax thing, right? It's the fact that you're trying something new. The government wants you to try this new stuff. So when you buy CBCTs or you buy different kinds of diagnostic equipment or you try different materials, right? I know people are trying different kinds of composites and all kinds of different things for their devices and teeth and partials and dentures and all that stuff, that you take a risk, right? I've definitely had calls with clients who are like, yeah, we did a bunch of crowns with this material and all of them came back because the people's teeth were sensitive. We had to cut them off and eat all that cost, right? Well, the government knows that when you try those things, sometimes they go bad and they don't want you to stop trying those because you're afraid it's going to cost you money. So the idea here is if you try new things based, like I said, to check those four boxes, not just one, but you have to check all four of them, then they want to give you some credits for that, for being willing to take the risk to try something new. And obviously you're going to do some research. You're not going to just, you know, gamble with something as big as like a CBCT because they're not cheap. But uh, but it's still, even with all your research and your best intentions, it might not fit for your practice, or it just might not be the right tool for the way that you like to practice or what you're doing, or the types of patients you have, right? So there is a risk there. They want to reward it in the sense of giving you the credits. Now, mentally, here's the thing, like, you're doing this for the patient so you can serve patients better, but ultimately if you serve patients better, you're going to get referrals, you're going to keep your patients, your life's easier. I belong to a ton of dental groups online, and I got to tell you, a lot of dentists struggle with the patients who are upset. I think that's part of the hardest part of your job. The two hardest parts of your job: one, nobody has a budget for dentistry, right? Like, people save up for car repairs or house repairs. Nobody's saving up for dental repairs. Right?
Yeah,
So every time you come to them with something, you feel like you're the bad guy when you're not, right? And then the second thing that happens with a lot of them is, like, some of these patients are really cranky. Some people are just they're just picky and they're just frustrating. And you guys are doing this to hopefully alleviate some of that and make them happier. But you want to be faster. You want to be more efficient. You want to uh, get better outcomes, less pain. All of those, they do add profitability to your business, right? The better you serve people and the better you take care of people, generally speaking, the more profitable you're going to be, because word gets out. We all know when somebody's good at something, you want to tell your friends,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah. So this is encouraging you to do those things, but obviously those things are, if they work out, they're things that will benefit you anyway.
Awesome. Now, if just correct me if I'm wrong, because as I said earlier, I'm here as a student myself for
Sure.
things that, again, this doesn't pertain to us, as consultants and whatnot. So it's almost like to better prepare myself to better serve my clients by educating myself. So is this only in the scenario that we are no longer able to that it fails? Am I understanding that the incentive is for something that you've tried that didn't work, or is it something that you can maintain within your business and continuously use it and apply for it every year just because you are implementing and trying something new?
Yeah, so it doesn't have to fail, right?
Okay,
No, it does not have to fail, because most of the things you try, I mean, dentists are pretty smart people, so you guys make pretty good decisions about this stuff, and you're kind of researchers, so so a lot of stuff doesn't fail, but when it does, it's really expensive, and the government knows that, so they're really trying to. help you shoulder that burden. But the reality is, they they want to support you. They want you to get things right. They want you to be successful. But when you buy these new materials and other things, it also allows those companies that you're buying from to flourish and try new stuff. And that's really what creates innovation, right? When a company comes out with a new product or a new service, all of you dentists buy it, and now that company thrives. And of course, they do more research and development, and they create an even better product in the future. And that's how we drive science forward and create progress. Is the government essentially, if you don't know this, the government uses taxes to encourage behavior. They want you to invest money somewhere, they give you tax breaks. They want you to buy a house, they give you tax breaks. They want you to have kids, they give you tax breaks. They want you to start a business, they give you tax breaks. All of those things are good for our country, and that's really where they're coming from. But from where you're sitting, these are all things that are good for your business. When you're doing leading edge things, when you're really doing the right thing for clients and getting better results, it ends up really benefiting you and the patient.
100%. And so I want to say, if anybody, as I said earlier, has any questions, you can put them on the chat, and I will be happy to pass that along to Derick. Let me see. We do have sort of like a nice mix based on some of the attendees and the people that I see here that join us. We have someone that has a question. Okay, so you can again open up your mic and do it, or you can just type the question on the chat. But I'm gonna speak on behalf of some of the people that I know are part of the audience here. We have people that have been in business for over 5 years, and I have dentists who are just getting ready to start their practices. So what advice would you give to the person that's been out for 3 to 4 years, right? That has already reached that milestone of breaking over, $1 million, $2 million in revenue.
Yeah.
The advice is get on the phone with you, right away, if your accountant is not doing this yet.
Yes, there's so many things you can do once you get to that level, that if you are not proactively getting advice from your tax advisor, whoever that is, it's something you'll want to seek out. Like I said, it just gets so darn expensive. You take all the risk, you put in all the labor, buy all the equipment, take on all the leases and expenses, and you give half the money away. Like, that's a tough way to go. There are ways to be a lot more efficient with that. And so it is a game. Like when we talk about money skills, the first skill is learning how to make it. You guys went to school, took on all this debt, so many other things just to get to where you are. Now, when you start making it, the next skill is, how do I keep more of what I make, right? Like, that's really it. And then beyond that, like, what do I do with it? How do I save? How do I grow my money? There's a whole thing. I'm actually doing a webinar on that a week from tonight, on how we approach the whole wealth building piece. But at the end of the day, the first skill after making it is, how do you keep it? Because it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep that really matters. Yeah.
100%. So, so everyone, have you had a chance to scan the code? I'm going to make sure that, again, I give you, because I want you to have Derick's information on the back of your hand so that you can reach out to him. Again, regardless of where you are in your journey, it's very important to surround yourself with the right people. And I take it upon myself to be very selective with the people that I connect with and that are part of my network, just because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of things going on, and we just want to follow a guide of someone that has been there and done what we're trying to do and has experience. So tell us a little bit more, Derick, about not only in this aspect, but in what other areas do you also help dentists through their journey?
Well, there's a lot of things that we do, but I'll just kind of list off some things. So we have some really good strategies. If you've got a lot of student loan debt, that's federal debt, there are some really specific things that you can do to help to make that much more manageable, and actually turn paying off your student loan debt from a liability, something that takes money out of your pocket, into an asset. So we've got a process for that. We do have the ability to help people reduce or eliminate credit card processing fees. That's another huge thing. I saw somebody put it this way the other day. They said, we have payroll, we have rent, and our third biggest expense is credit card fees. So if we can help you to massively reduce or completely eliminate that, that can be a big win. And then we do a lot of coaching for doctors and dentists on just structure of, okay, at the beginning of the year, how do we create goals for you financially? Like it's so funny to me that people create business goals, right? Here's what we're going to do for revenue. Here's, our projected expenses. Here's our marketing budget. Financially, personally, very few people have goals. They don't know how much they need to save for taxes. They don't know how much money they need to save. They don't know what they're going to do with it. A lot of people do the brain off. Actually, if you're on our newsletter tomorrow morning, the newsletter I'm sending out is, are your investments going in the junk drawer? Right.
Mm.
And it's the idea that we all have places where we store stuff we don't know what to do with, right? Like I've got paper clips, I've got rubber bands, I've got chip clips, right? They all go in the junk drawer. Or we have a closet in the guest bedroom where we put stuff that we don't really have a place for. And for a lot of people, that's how they treat their investments, is they kind of just stick it in a 401k or an IRA and try not to think about it. And they hope someday when they're 65, it's going to be enough. And for most people, it's a little scary that it's not, right? We really help people to pull it out of the junk drawer and say, hey, there's really a place for this. There's a way to structure it. It doesn't have to be like rocket science, but it does need to be a little bit more than brain off. I know a lot of people like to default to IRAs, 401ks, that kind of thing, because it's tax deferred, right? It doesn't actually save you taxes, but it saves them this year. You just got to pay them in the future. But we really help people to understand that, especially for you as a dentist, and if you don't know what an accredited investor is, it's someone who, as a married couple, if you make more than $300,000 a year, which a lot of dentists do, or you have $1 million net worth, not including your home, you're an accredited investor. And what that does is, being an accredited investor allows you to invest in things that people who are not accredited can't. They're a little bit more sophisticated, but they also, in many cases, have tax breaks. They have a much bigger upside, and you could put a lot more variety to where your whole situation isn't tied to the stock market, right? Because that's a scary thing for a lot of people. If the market's up or the market's down, like, you don't have any control. And you can try and guess, but the best people in the world, on Wall Street, you're competing against them if you take that into your own hands. So it's a tough game to win. So we really feel like there are a lot better options for you as an accredited investor. And so we help people to pull that together. And if we can help you to systematize your savings so that you're consistently putting money away that's consistent with how you want to save, if we can help you massively reduce taxes and some of the other fees, maybe credit card fees, maybe benefits plans for your employees, other things that put money back in your pocket, you can go from saving, just so you know, the average dentist saves 10.5% of their income, right? Which is a pretty low number, but I think a lot of that's because dentists make more money. So their buddies are saving $15,000 a year and they're saving 40, and they think they're saving a lot more, but proportionally they're saving less. But if we can take all that other stuff, you can go from saving 10% to saving 25 or 30% of your income, just because a lot of it's tax savings and some of these other things. All of a sudden you can really build a really nice portfolio quickly. So we do those kinds of things for people to help coordinate it, help look at where you're at. But yeah, those things, and then lots of more in-depth tax strategies to reduce that, because like I said, taxes are just such a cost.
100%. I mean, I said it earlier and I will say it again. I'm a student of yours and I'm learning a lot, to implement, because we are small business owners. So my role is, and my clients know this, is to help them get off to a good start as first-time business owners. But I always go back to one of my very first clients, Dr. Smith. She's a dentist that gave me the opportunity to help her as she was getting started with her practice, and I was just starting out doing my consulting, and we did an amazing job. She made $1 million in her first year. And I was so happy because that's like one of my very first, projects as a full consultant. And I was so excited about her results. And we still talk about it to this day. But she basically, like as we got out to eat like a year into the practice, she said, Maritza, but I ended up paying like $100,000 to the IRS. And I was like, oops, like I am not equipped for giving you financial advice. I am just getting started myself. I mean, this was 5 years ago, but to your point,
Sure.
you're not strong at what we don't know what we don't know, right? And
Yep.
back to the Lao Tzu quote, when we let go of what we are, then we have the opportunity to become what we might, right?
Hmm.
So we start on this journey because we want to build wealth and a legacy for our families and for our future generations, right? But at the end of the day, we get stuck in the day-to-day operations, and there's so many blind spots, and that is why it's so important to surround yourself with the right people. And you're one of those. So I'm really grateful and excited to have you on tonight. Now, this is the last call because I know that there are so many amazing people here that are on the call, but you're shying away. I want to be able to, you have this opportunity to ask them questions. I am hoping that you have taken the time to scan the code, but if you're using the phone for the event or what have you, then I'm going to make sure that tomorrow you'll probably get an email or something that we include his information. But this is your opportunity to go ahead and ask, what are you curious about? What questions do you have for him before we wrap up?
Yeah, and I realize that a lot of people are having dinner, relaxing for the
Yes, yes,
evening. I
yes.
mean, who doesn't listen to tax talk when they're relaxing at night?
To me, this is
Uh,
really exciting, I have to say. And to your point, I was actually taking a course on Thursday and Friday on how to evaluate dental practices. And we had like 7 different examples of like P&Ls and tax returns and all of
mhm.
these things. And that was exactly the whole concept, that a lot of practices, because we're like a lot of the CPAs are really not qualified for sometimes doing practice valuations because of all the intangibles and the things that we're doing in our practices, that you guys are doing in your practices. So I consider this, research and development credits something that it's intangible, that you just basically take for granted, that you have this piece of equipment and you're doing this, but you're not really taking into consideration all these things. So we have a question from someone here from dental hygiene. Hi, how are you? So do hard and soft tissue, let me see, lasers, let me just,
Lasers. Yeah, do hard and soft tissue lasers fall under the accepted criteria of new technology to take advantage of the R&D credit? Great question. So if hard and soft tissue lasers are new, or if you've brought in an upgraded version that you're testing and trying, then yes, they would qualify. If you bought them in 2016 and have continued to use them, then they're not new for the current years, right? It's the years that you're bringing them in and trying new things. Or, like I said, if you upgrade them, if you started with one and then a couple years later you bought a new one and figured out its capabilities and how to do that, then yes, that's a perfect example of something that you're bringing in a new capability to make I've talked with a lot of dentists who have used the lasers, but it's better wound healing, it's less bleeding, it's faster, it's less pain. Obviously, there's a lot of advantages to that. So if it's new, chances are good that it's going to qualify.
awesome.
So great
And
example.
and to go back to something that you said earlier, that they can do an amendment. So if they purchase a piece of equipment and they need to do an amendment, and let's say
Mhm.
they bought it in 2022 or 2021, can they still go back to try to, get the incentive?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You can go back up to 3 years to get money back from the IRS.
Awesome. So did that answer your question? I think that was great question. Any other questions? That was a good one.
Yeah, yeah. So, I've got the code up here. Even if you're not sure about research and development credits, if you just have general questions, or if you're looking for a good accountant, or you're just trying to figure out support. I know a lot of new dentists. It's like, okay, I need a good bookkeeper. I need someone to help me set up my entity. If you don't have credit card processing set up, like these are all things that we can definitely help you get set up properly because we understand the trajectory of your growth, right? It's not just about where you are right now, but where you're going and making sure that we're putting that in place. If you're looking at group benefits programs and trying to figure out how do I do that cost effectively, take care of my team without breaking the bank, all those are types of conversations that we have the ability to help with. And just so you know, it's not just me. We've got 12 support people over here. We've got a whole registered investment advisory that we work with, a whole accounting group. So there are some pretty deep resources here. We actually have, if you were ever going to get to the point, like people who continue the work that Maritza does from what we call making your business exit ready, helping you take your business from you being the practitioner to really growing it to where it's sellable and always being prepared to sell it because 60% of sales of practices aren't planned. People
Yes.
get sick, they get divorced, they have things come up, life changes. If your business is ready, you can still get a really nice price for it. And if it's not, you suffer. And these people, are experts in the exit strategy. Like we're rolling that out actually in about 2 weeks. So
Beautiful.
some free courses on that, how that looks. And the truth is, that's how you want to run your business anyway because
Yes.
it's so much more profitable. That's why private equity or another dentist or your associate or whoever would want to buy it, is because it's a finely tuned machine. It's about people, it's about systems, it's about who your clients are. All of that matters. But yeah, there's a lot of resources that we can help. So if you're looking to up your game, I feel like we can probably help you at least get turned on to the right people.
That's exactly right. And I'm so, again, grateful and excited to have been able to um, have this time with you because, to your point, I think that shifting our mindset from, hey, we are just starting a business, but we're here to build wealth and add value to those around us. And we have to really take it serious. So I am deeply grateful for your time. And for those of you who attended tonight's workshop and webinar, continue the great work that you do and do not miss the opportunity to connect with great individuals such as Derick and myself. Thank you for being part of my network. And thank you for being with us. You could have been again anywhere and you chose to be with us. So we are grateful to you as well. Everyone, have an amazing night. Any last message or last thoughts, Derick, before we let everyone go and enjoy the rest of their night?
Uh, no, nothing major. I think the biggest thing is just one of my favorite statements is the obstacle is the way. That one thing that's looking you in the eye, that's scaring you, that you know you should do, but you're afraid to confront, that's probably the next step for you. So every time I've taken a step into that, my life has taken a huge jump forward in a good way. So if any of you are out there feeling that, then I would encourage it, especially if it's taxes, then this is a sign. We're here to help.
Yes, yes, for sure. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Derick. Have a good night. And we are definitely going to be showing up to your webinar and staying in touch. Everyone, thank you. Have a good night. We're going to be wrapping up for now. Bye-bye.